Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So today we're going to go through some numbers today. And we also have some Bitcoin news as well. All right. But we're going to begin here because I want to take a look at cross-border payments. It's time for an update, and not just any cross-border payments. We may look at the entirety of the system, but also I want to really focus in on B2B payments. All right. So now I want to begin here. This information is coming from fxcintel.com, and they're pretty good over here. Okay. Now I want to read this little tidbit to you. It says B2B payments is a less mature industry than consumer money transfers, with no clear leaders of the pack worldwide. Boom. Listen, that gets my heart racing a little bit. What does that tell you? Now they're talking about the legacy system. Remember, with the bank coins, we haven't made the huge impact that we can. We're just now getting clarity. We haven't been running everything to full capacity like we could because we're just now getting true clarity. But in the next year or two, I foresee the bank coins being very dominant because now we have been unleashed. We can do business in ways we could not before during the court case, right? So if we become that leader of the pack, and I believe that we will, then we could move massive amounts of this value we're going to get into. All right. Also, just think about this. If I'm onto this information and these companies have massive research teams, they're paid top dollar. All right. They have massive advisors, a massive amount of advisors, and they're paid top dollar. They know this also, that there is no clear leaders of the pack worldwide. But we know from the beginning that companies like Ripple, companies like Algorand, Quant, that they have been looking into B2B payments and becoming a dominant force. They said this in their own documents, correct? So we're talking trillions of dollars. Once again, another sector with trillions of dollars on the table that can be taken. And that's what I'm interested for. That's what I'm here for. And that takes time. It does, especially because we were kneecapped for a long time, unfortunately. But I think we're seeing things move at a lightning pace right now. But let's get into this right here. Okay, go a little further. It says, having said this, FXC's own data has shown that the global B2B cross-border payments market could total $56.1 trillion by 2030. Now, keep that number in mind because we're going to go to another article. We need to verify that this number is accurate. All right. We're going to look at two different time periods and see if we're still on course to reach this number or exceed this number. That's important because if it gets lowered or there's a wildly different number from another esteemed organization, then this is sort of invalidated, right? It's not relevant. So we have to start, bringing the numbers together, making sure that these things continue to look good. That's part of why we continue to research, right? To make sure we're on the right trajectory. All right. So now $56.1 trillion is on the table. There's no leader of the pack. Let's continue on. It says driven by growth across large enterprises and SMBs, small and medium-sized businesses. Now, wait a minute. Now, SMBs are it says driven by growth across SMBs. I'm going to just put large enterprises to the side. I think we already know that. But SMBs, remember I was talking about this. Small and medium-sized businesses, people are forgetting about them. They need a lifeline like right now. They need to save money right now. They need to be able to expand globally and have global reach and be able to send that money all around the world right now. Especially, and I'll put this a little caveat in there, especially with the advent of the digital nomad. Yeah, with the digital nomads, I'm seeing articles written about this everywhere. I told people this was coming. I told people about a year or two ago this was coming, and now you see it happening. It's just logical. People don't want to be held down. They want to live on a nice beach. I'm just being serious, real with you. They want to live on a nice beach or a beautiful property, large property, pool for cheap somewhere else, not in the United States most of the time. They want to travel around. So the digital nomad thing, a lot of those are coming from medium and small size businesses, right? But they still want to be able to collect their paycheck. Remember, paycheck's going to run across the XRPL. They already have the system set up. It's going to run across Stellar. It's going to run across these different things. And the people need their paychecks instantaneously. They don't want to wait on that. They want to be in control of their own currencies. I mean, their own capital. My apologies there. My apologies. They want to be able to send money around the world, do business globally. It's going to unlock a lot of value. So don't forget about the small and medium sized businesses. And you know what's funny? When I think about SMBs, I think about the United States. United States is in a bad spot. A lot of businesses are hurting. They've been hurting. All right. This is why you see the prices skyrocketing everywhere. They're trying to, keep the value they're bringing in the same under some very, very interesting circumstances. I'll tell you that much. I'll leave it at that. It says here, as well as increased digitization, DLT technologies, bank coin companies. This is a sector I believe we're going to take, just my humble opinion. That's trillions of dollars right there. What happens to that price? We start taking a piece of all of these different trillions, right? And especially interbank payments. Let's keep going. A wave of investments in B2B payment startups in 2023 suggests that disruption is coming. They're telling the people. Let me calm down. I'm a little excited today. Feeling good today. But they're telling the people it's coming. Here's the problem. When we do research, like research channels like this, we don't, obviously this information is not going to go as far as like the big popular channels that cover like the popular stuff. And so a lot of people are not going to know about it. That's the point. A lot of people are not going to know this information, but they should. I feel like this is the information that should be going around and the people will be excited. Not that they have to be, because the companies are what's going to pump that price. The banks are what's going to pump that price. You want to be honest. That's just how I feel. You don't have to feel the same. But this is what would get the people excited if they knew this. They don't know this. Listen to, once again, it says a wave of investments in B2B startups. That's because they know what's coming. They're trying to get in early. Everybody's trying to get out to the front of the pack. But we're already there. XRP is there. Quant is there. I mean, there's so many, and we can dominate easily. Look at how they're streamlining all of the technologies, making it easy for companies anywhere to deploy. That's why I said that was going to be key. Streamlining everything, making it easy. You saw Stellar doing it, making it so easy to deploy. You saw some other companies doing it. I believe Ripple did it or is doing it, where you can deploy things with just a little bit of code, etc. You don't even have to learn too much, so that the banks and other companies and large non-banking financial institutions, huge businesses, medium businesses, they made it very clear that they do not want to overburden their workers learning new systems. So that's something that has to be remedied if you want to do good business with them, right? And that's what the bank coin companies have been doing, right? I like it. I think that's going to be key. But it says B2B payment startups in 2023 suggest that disruption is coming in the space in 2024. What's more, that we've been seeing it. We've been seeing it, but I wouldn't say 2024. Obviously, we're deep into 2024 already. But what I will say, I believe it's in 2025, you're going to start to see a lot of things come to fruition. There's been a lot of building and a lot of progress in 2024. Yes, sure. I think 2025 is where you start to see a lot of things come to fruition. But then just my opinion. All right. I don't work for these companies. OK, it says, what's more, established companies in the cross-border payment space, such as Payoneer and OFX, saw a sizable contribution to their revenues coming from B2B, highlighting a growing demand from businesses for better payment solutions. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time we heard about any B2B activity out of any of these large bank coin companies? But we know that they're taking meetings all the time, right? That they have announcements. They do drop little announcements here and there. They're holding a lot back. They have a lot of things they're working on. They're not talking about. And that's what I really, really want. That's what I want to hear. I wish they would just go ahead and release it, but I'm sure they have their reasons why they're not releasing that information. And I've heard certain things also that I just you can't say it, just can't talk about it right now. But I've heard things. And if those things are true, then things are looking well. But who knows? How can you verify things that people are telling you? Right. But yeah, I'm quite sure that they've been going after the B2B sector 100% if they let it be known already that they were going to do that. So, we will see in the future. Now, I want to go on here to this next article And of course, it's one of my absolute favorite websites. They've always done a great job since the beginning of the channel. So now this is coming from statista.com. All right. And it's titled Value of Total Cross-Border Payments Market Worldwide in 2023 with a forecast for 2030. And as you can see here, now this article, like the first article we read, came out in like February or January, something like that, earlier this year. Now this article came out June 25th, and I wanted that kind of range just to make sure the numbers continue to look the same from different organizations. That tells me that we're on the right path and that those numbers are accurate. Right? Because many times the numbers can wildly differ between organizations. And then you have to question like, okay, let's go with the more reputable organization and something's definitely off here. So we have to wait for more data to come in before we can determine if this is an accurate number or not. But yes, they confirm here on statista.com that at that certain time range that it was a 2030, I think that's what they said, that B2B cross-border payments will be heading towards 56.1 trillion. My apologies. I don't have the number up here, but I'll put it on the screen somewhere at some point. But I think it was $56.1 trillion. That confirms it right there. So we're on the right path. The numbers have remained the same. But of course, we'll go back later towards the end of the year and get the numbers again, because we want another bit of data to confirm, to make sure. All right. I check multiple times. I just don't always do it on the channel. I don't have time to do everything, but we want multiple checks to make sure that number remains the same or is exceeded, or maybe we can exceed that number, the projection for that number. And that means we're on a beautiful, beautiful path. 100%, in my humble opinion. It says here, let me get to the right part. Bear with me, please. It says here, consumer initiated cross-border payments are to grow nearly twice as fast as its B2B counterpart between 2023 and 2030. Now, wait a minute. Now, that is also great because obviously we're going to be moving a lot of that capital from regular cross-border payments. Clearly, all the bank coin companies have made that known. So if they're growing twice as fast and yet B2B is going to be about around 56.1 trillion, sure, we'll take that as well. That's beautiful also, in my humble opinion. It says here, although remaining small in comparison, this is according to a market model that aims to capture the full size of worldwide international payments, focusing especially on the business side of things, B2B cross-border payments market. So the sources estimate is to increase by 43%, with B2B e-commerce being one of the main drivers within this segment. Now, e-commerce, I think, also is going to be very important. Is going to continue to grow, continue to expand. But here's the thing. The e-payments, electronic payments, have been failing. They've been doing a very, very bad job, especially you look at something like Zelle. I saw an article today. I saw a few articles last week about political members within the U.S. have a big problem with Zelle. We all know why. The banks are not taking responsibility for the people getting scammed, losing tons of money. So right now, e-money, that's electronic money. That's not digital. Let's make that clear. BIS made that clear. But e-money is not doing well, which means that now that they're having problems and the politicians are going against Zelle, and that's just one example. They're going against a lot of these e-money iterations that are similar to Zelle also, but you already know that. But that means it creates a chasm, right? A void, which if there is a void, then something can fill that void. Correct? What can fill that void? I mean, the dominant force right now is digitization, period. BIS loves digitization. IMF loves digitization. I just covered the article recently where the ECB is coming out and they're saying, listen, we want a CBDC. We want it now. And there's a few countries within Europe are like, hey, listen, we don't want a CBDC. They said they don't want a CBDC. They didn't say they didn't want digitized systems. Which tells me, this is why I said in that video, they'll have local digital currencies, which those localities can control. And then they can link that to or utilize that, connect that to the ECB system so they maintain control, but the ECB can have their system up and running and everybody is happy. So there's that. ECB is on board as well. And of course, I don't doubt that the United States government, they probably will let the private sector, which is like who? I'm only going to speak for the private sector on behalf of the bank coin companies. I'll probably be like Ripple, Stellar, Ripple for all the other, top end stuff, Stellar for the lower end retail stuff. Algorand is in the game. A couple other things are in the game in the US, but they'll let the private sector do it. The US always typically does that. They'll take everything they'll let the private sector do everything. So that chasm will be filled, in my humble opinion, by the DLT systems, by the bank coin system, fully digitized systems. Is coming. Can't get around it. If they want to avoid fragmentation, they're going to need that interoperability also. That's another thing. Just know that. They're going to need interoperability. Simple as that. They can't get around it. But let's continue on here. I'm trying to get to that, and they cover a little bit of ISO 20022 here as well. It says the source described consumer cross-border payments as, quote, a significantly smaller market, unquote, but it did predict this particular market would grow by roughly 80% in 7 years. All right. So now let me scroll down. Bear with me one moment, please. It says a big theme for cross-border payments in 2023 is the question of how to help speed up the processes. And see, this is another thing. They haven't yet solved these problems. This is what it confirms. Every once in a while, you need a new confirmation that they haven't solved the problems that they've been talking about for all this time. And what does that mean? That means that we're still in the driver's seat. If they haven't solved these problems and yet we have the solutions, that equals money. That equals value, period. And they haven't done it yet. The legacy system hasn't caught up yet. So let's say it's 5 months down the road. We're still going to need to confirm if everything hasn't popped off yet, because we want to make sure that we're still in the driver's seat. But let's say it reversed and now they didn't need help speeding up the processes. That means that we're not in the driver's seat anymore, and we better start readjusting our thoughts, right? So that's why continuous research is necessary. It says, and combat international payment system fragmentation. Whoa. Wow. See, I just said that. I said fragmentation is a problem that they need to address. They're going to have to continuously address. And this is why the bank coin companies they're coming. My humble opinion, but they're coming. They're there. They're going to be needed. They have the interoperability and the global reach that no one else has. Listen to that one time again. It says, and combat international payment system fragmentation. That equals huge value. This is coming from Statista.com. June 25th is recent. If that's not an eye opener for people, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. Central banks believe that CBDC held the most promise to make international payments more efficient. And here's the thing people don't think about, and I think I've said this before. Let me reiterate it in a different way. But with CBDCs, they're not their own system. They're not. When you have a CBDC, it's highly fragmented, 100%. It cannot reach over to this other region, that other region. It has to have a connector piece. Even if you have multiple central banks, like they'll say an MBDC system. Sure, you can have an MBDC system. My apologies, a little tongue tied, but who cares? The information and the word is what matters, right? The message is what matters, right? Not the messenger. But you may have, let's say, 6, 7 banks together. I don't care if you have 15 banks together. All right, they have to connect to the other multitude of thousands of banks around the world or other central banks. They have to connect to these other systems that are outside of their region, period. And that's where the bank coins come in. Not to mention a lot of the other mechanisms that are involved that could be deployed from bank coin systems. Simple as that. So in a multitude of ways, CBDC system is a system that is supported by bank coin DLT systems in the private sector. Without the private sector, they're not going to get very far. Now, keep in mind, CBDCs are being pushed by central banks, but a lot of commercial banks are not on board with that. A lot of the commercial banks are not on board with that. So which means what? A lot of the commercial banks will be deploying their own. And keep in mind, local digital currency is a phrase, is verbiage that encompasses a lot of different things. But when you have them deploying what will be considered local digital currencies, whether they're from the state, the city, the commercial banks, they're going to need interoperability with these other systems. Who do you think is going to step in? Who can deploy everything so quickly and so cheaply, like no one else? That's going to be the DLT companies, the bank coin companies, in my humble opinion. That's a lot of value to be able to move. These are all thoughts I'm having right now. I was doing this research here. I figured I'd give you one of these deep thought videos. This is some of my deep thoughts. This is what's on my mind right now instead of just doing articles like usual. But we will end off here with one article. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been working hard. I hope people see that. I've been trying my best. So now, and I'm going to do that until I'm gone. I'm going to continue to do my absolute best. Some days I have good days and some days may not be my best days, but I tell you what, I gave my absolute best every single day. Every single day, I gave you my all. I gave you what I had that day. And there's not a lot of people that do that. And I'm talking about in life. There's not a lot of people that give their absolute best every single day. And I do that not only for myself or for you, but I do that to honor my father, who told me every single day, Nick, anything that you do, he said, give your best. And I will never, never betray anything that my father taught me. So every day I give you my best. Whether it's one of my bad days or it's one of my good days, I give you my all. All right. So I love you all. I just want you to know that. So now let's move on here. And I don't care what people say. Oh, you love us, Mick? Yeah, I said I love you. So what? Yeah, I do. Well, so what? Let me give some love before we, who knows when our last days are. So I'm going to show love. I'm not afraid of that. I've shown love throughout my life. I've taken some punches throughout my life in combat. I've had my ups and downs. Listen, love you all. I hope you all are doing good. Period. Whether you have harsh words for me or not, or you have a lot of good comments for me. Either way, love you all. All right. Know that. Feel good about yourselves and your lives. Now, let's get on here. We're going to end off with a little bit of Bitcoin news. I had a chain link article. I might put that in the members only section. OK, shout out to all the members. I greatly appreciate you. You are the main reason this channel exists. So now, this article is titled Bitcoin won't break $65,000 without big news or policy shift. This is coming from some analyst. It says, meanwhile, a crypto quant analyst noted that Bitcoin OTC desk balances for miners have surged to a 2-year high, hinting at selling pressure. Well, I agree with the first statement that, yeah, definitely, I think it's going to take some big news. And that could come in the form of, the rate cuts from the Fed. They could. I think there's a lot of political pressure, and they could do a rate cut or two. If they do 2 rate cuts, it's going to get insane. It's going to go crazy. Analysts argue that Bitcoin breaking beyond the $65,000 level would require a significant policy change or a major news event. Well, also a major news event that encompasses a lot of different things. But let's say the companies, the big time companies, which are dominating now, which took over Bitcoin. Let's be clear about that. Let's say they all come together by proxy and they say to each other, hey, listen, it's time to buy. We're going to push this up, because they know that if they buy and that price starts going up a little bit and it looks good for a couple of days in a row, they know the regular people are going to come back in buying Bitcoin, and that will push the price up. They can pump it just in that way alone. They know eyes are watching. So that's a catalyst also. Just the big companies beginning to buy again and the price goes up. That's a huge catalyst in my humble opinion. But who can foresee that coming? It's just something you have to observe in the moment. It says, despite recent positive macroeconomic indicators and increased institutional interest in spot Bitcoin ETFs, research firm 10X Research anticipates that while the recent rally could extend slightly, it will likely encounter resistance around the $65,000 mark. We shall see. I don't know what Bitcoin is today. Quote, we anticipate that this rally could extend slightly, but will likely encounter resistance around the $65,000 level. Achieving a more substantial surge would require a significant policy shift or major news event, unquote, the firm wrote. The macroeconomic backdrop appears supportive, with the federal minutes from last month's meeting revealing a dovish tone. Yes, but we've heard dovish tones before and then seen nothing, so I will take that into account. According to Crypto Quant, Bitcoin OTC desk balances for miners have surged to a 2-year high. Over the past 3 months, these balances have increased by more than 70%, rising from 215,000 Bitcoin in June to 368,000 Bitcoin in August. All right. And now I remember an article I do want to end off on. All right. So let's see if I can pull that one up here. Bear with me one moment, please. All you good people out there. So now this article here catches my eye as a catalyst. Oh man, I'm so tired of these types of things. This article is titled German Authority Seize $279,000 in Bitcoin ATM Crackdown. How much more will they see? That's why I wonder how much more will they seize, right? Because then once they start selling, and they will, if it's a much larger amount than this, then that definitely could affect markets, right? But as of right now, I'm not too concerned, but I'm watching this because I know the financial state that the government of Germany is in. All right. Financial regulators and law enforcement agencies shut down 13 cryptocurrency ATMs operating without proper authorization. How long were they operating for? In a sweeping operation across Germany, financial regulators and law enforcement agencies have confiscated nearly $279,000 in cash and shut down 13 cryptocurrency ATMs operating without proper authorization. The German Federal Financial Supervisory Authority announced the results of this coordinated effort on Tuesday in a statement that highlighted concerns over money laundering risk associated with unregulated cryptocurrency exchanges. Really? That's interesting. Listen, I firmly believe that a lot of these governments just need money they're trying to get money from everywhere that they can. A lot of these governments are in financial trouble. They have no solutions beyond, let's print some more money. That hasn't been working out for them. So they're just taking capital from anywhere that they can get it. And if there's a technicality somewhere, they're going to find it, and you may have some problems. I mean, just my humble opinion. The operation, which involved collaboration between BaFin, the local law enforcement, and the German Bundesbank, targeted 35 locations throughout the country. The seized ATMs were primarily used for trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies operating outside regulatory framework designed to prevent financial crimes. If that was the case, once again, then how were they operating? How long were they operating? Why didn't this happen earlier? Why weren't they stopped from the jump, from the start, from the beginning? Right? I have to ask these questions. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.